Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Top Indian government sources say India has decided that any future act of terror will be considered an act of war against India and will be responded accordingly. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs high-level meeting in New Delhi. Sources say India eliminated 5 terrorists of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terror groups in May 7 Operation Sindoor in Pakistan-occupied J&K and Pakistan. 2 brother-in-laws of JEM chief Maulana Masood Azhar among those killed. Calibrated and swift Indian response to Pakistan's misadventure. India hits 6 Pakistani air bases using precision weapons, targets radar site, weapons facility and control and command center. India foils Pakistan's bid to target military locations, slams Islamabad for targeting civilian infrastructure such as schools and medical centers. India's Ministry of External Affairs demolishes Pakistan's lies and propaganda, condemns Pakistan's bid to sow communal discord in India. Breaking news coming in at this point in time. Top Indian government sources have told DD India that India has decided that any future act of terror will be considered an act of war against India and it will be responded accordingly. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had earlier today chaired a high-level meeting with India's Defence Minister, India's National Security Advisor, with the Chief of Defence Staff of India, as well as the 3 chiefs of Indian Armed Forces and senior officials. And now this news coming in, the top Indian government sources have said that if there is an act of terror against India in future, this will be considered as an act of war against India and it will be responded to accordingly. Remember, the original escalation by Pakistan was the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack. To that, India responded in a very measured and reasonable fashion. After that, Pakistan has been escalating every night, every day. There is escalation happening from the Pakistan side. India is only retaliating to that escalation in a very, very measured manner. Pakistan has attacked civilian areas, civilian infrastructure, military infrastructure. Indian schools as well as health facilities have been targeted in Jammu and Kashmir as well as in Punjab. And now a firm, decisive decision taken by the government of India. Top government sources have told DD India that India has decided that any future act of terror will be considered as an act of war against India and India will give a response that is required under those circumstances. Akshay Dongre, our correspondent, is joining us with more on this. Akshay, if you could put this into perspective for us.
Well, Murmun, if we look at this statement, it's a clear warning not only to Pakistan but to any other power as well, and especially to Pakistan that has been harboring, that has been launching terrorists, that has been infiltrating, funding and even nurturing them in its own territory and even in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, using the army posts as launch pads, infiltrating terrorists inside inside Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of the country. And India has been a victim of Pakistan grown terrorism for far too long. About over 350 lives have been lost due to these terror incidents. Sometimes it is in Mumbai in the form of 26/11. At times it is in the markets of Delhi as suicide attacks. At times it is in different parts of the country which has been directly linked time and again to Pakistan. The roots always follow the same path, that is the Pakistani soil. So the government of India has now finally come out and said that any act of terror will be considered an act of war, which means so far Pakistan used to conduct a terror attack, be it at Pathankot, be it at Uri base or other parts of the country, and then it used to say that we will cooperate and we will investigate, and after proofs is presented, they refuse to accept any of it. They even refused to accept the 26/11 attack, and later on it was firmly established, and even Pakistani politicians accepted that it was an attack that was conducted by Pakistani military, ISI and the government. Similarly, the Pulwama attack, in which several of our CRPF soldiers, Central Armed Police Forces soldiers were killed while they were traveling. So all of these could have been understood, all of these could have been taken as act of war, and Indian Army and other armed forces would have retaliated in the manner that they have been trained for had this decision been there. So this is what is going to happen. If you launch a terror attack, it is no longer a terror attack. It will be considered an act of war by the government of Pakistan, by the military of Pakistan, and then there will be a retaliation in similar manner, in a manner in which the countries fight war, in a manner armies retaliate against adversaries of opposing countries, especially when you talk about this advisory that has been issued. It has made everything clear in front of Pakistan and the world, so that later there can be no doubts about these kind of strategies, such as death by 1,000 cuts, that Pakistan has been not only propagating but has been implementing on the ground, that it will keep on sending infiltrators, it will keep on funding terrorists, it will keep on trying to create separatist sentiments in different parts of the country by funding them, or by doing other kind of their nefarious agendas, by running their nefarious agendas. So India has made it very, very clear, very, very firmly, that even if the action, even if this present tension de-escalates and there is any kind of terror attack, it will be taken again as a resumption of hostilities and act of war. So Pakistan should not be under any kind of illusion that it will not directly engage, because it has already understood the far superiority of the Indian armed forces that they have on as compared to the Pakistani armed forces. So their strategy has been to launch terrorists instead of their armed forces that are originally trained by Pakistani army and the ISI. So this one thing has been made clear for the rest of the world, that these acts of terror are not done by individual. It is done by the Pakistani military, it is done by the ISI and Pakistani establishment, and it will be taken as an attack on India's sovereignty and integrity by Pakistan, and will be responded to in a proportionate and in a manner that suits an act of war.
Yes.
So that is a major dire warning for Pakistan, that it doesn't matter whether this situation escalates or de-escalates, but if Pakistani terrorists are now planning to launch any kind of terror attack, Pakistani government's involvement will be considered in any kind of attack that takes place inside the country.
Yes, also Akshay, is the calculation that the world should get a message that India truly has zero tolerance towards terrorism, and if there is any future act of terror, then it will be seen as an act of war against India, and thus India will be responding to that. Also, is it expected to have deterrent effect on Pakistan? Because it's interesting that you are saying that the act of war coinage should also be seen in the context of how state actors in Pakistan, the deep state of Pakistan and the Pakistani security establishment as a whole, has been backing and funding and supporting these terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed all along for 3 decades plus now.
Well, absolutely. If India is taking action against Pakistani terror infrastructure and terrorists are killed, and we have just reported that 5 dreaded global terrorists have been killed in the attack on terror infrastructure on 7th of May, then you would have seen those footages where the Pakistani soldiers, Pakistani officers are attending the funeral. Bouquets of flowers have been presented by the Chief of the Army Staff, Asif Munir himself, the President of Pakistan, the Prime Minister as well, and all of these people have been supporting these terrorists who in fact planned and executed a Pahalgam attack, killing several people. So it is a deterrence policy. It is a policy that is also practical, because terrorism cannot survive in a country, especially in high-profile areas like Abbottabad, Jacobabad, in border areas with India, be it on the international border or be at the line of control near the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. It cannot be nurtured or cannot be funded, or it cannot be allowed to happen without the involvement of the ISI, that is the intelligence service of Pakistan, without the Pakistani military that is always present there in those regions, and the Pakistani government's nod. So if the Pakistani government wants to conduct an act of war, they can try again in future trying to commit an act of terror, and India will be responding not by investigation but the way it should respond to an act of war.
Yes, and we heard in the press conference that had taken place earlier today that Pakistan's military is moving its troops in forward areas. A message would go out there as well that India is not backing off. If there is escalation from the Pakistan side, then India will respond.
Well, India is definitely going to respond, and all of the intel from Pakistan is fast trickling in. The Indian intelligence agencies are on a very extreme high alert when it comes to monitoring what is happening, be it inside Pakistan or on the borders. So we have this report that Pakistan is mobilizing and forwarding its troops at the forward areas, and India is prepared for it. All the eventualities have been accounted for. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just held a meeting with the National Security Advisor, the Defence Minister, the chiefs of the 3 wings of the Indian Armed Forces. So all the preparations are already being done, and any act of war conducted against India will be responded to in kind and in a very proportionate manner.
Do you think, Akshay, considering that you cover the Ministry of External Affairs very closely, that this stand of India is going to get backing from countries that really matter in the international community, and especially those countries that have stood by India's side?
Well, it should matter, and even we have seen that after Pahalgam attack, there has been an outpouring of support and sympathies with the victims as well as with the government at the tragic loss of 26 people, 26 innocent civilians who were killed in cold blood by terrorists. So it was an act of war then as well. 26/11 was also an act of war. So this is a different strategy. It's just not conventional warfare. It is a warfare. It is an unconventional warfare. Pakistan has been reiterating it that deaths by 1,000 cuts is a policy that it implements and it follows. So what we are seeing right now is a very clear messaging, and it certainly should be getting support from the countries who themselves have been victims of terror, like Israel, like US itself has been a victim of terror. Many of the countries in Europe have been victims of terror. All around the world, wherever you go, you would see any kind of you would see some history of terror attacks, and most of those terror attacks, trace back to Pakistan, a country that is now widely established as a terrorism country, a country that harbors terrorism, a country that funds it, which nurtures it, and which is protected by the very military that claims of fighting it, and that claims money from the rest of the world to fight terror, and it uses that same money to use terrorism as another weapon in this unconventional warfare. So any kind of warfare, India is going to respond in the similar manner, be it kinetic means or non-kinetic means. We are well prepared, and the Indian Armed Forces, as far as that morale is concerned, it remains high. The people are united. They are standing with the government, with the armed forces, and the act which was intended to fragment Indian society has united it and has kept it united. As far as Pakistan's intentions are concerned, they have certainly failed. So coming back to your question about the worldwide support, so most of those countries who themselves have suffered terrorist attacks, who have been victims of terror, similar kind of demands may also be raised by their people to follow the suit that India has, because any act of terror, any act against integrity and sovereignty of a country is essentially an act of war.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Akshay Dongre reporting on the big breaking news story of the day, that India has decided any future act of terror would be considered as an act of war against India, and an appropriate response would be given. We'll leave it at that, Akshay. Moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level meeting with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan and 3 service chiefs at his residence in New Delhi. The meeting took place following India's strikes at air bases in Pakistan in the early hours of Saturday in response to Pakistan's strike at Indian locations. In a major success for India, sources say 5 terrorists were killed in Indian strikes on the 7th of May in Pakistan. 3 Jaish-e-Mohammed and 2 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists were killed in the strikes. First was Abu Jundal, who was affiliated to Lashkar-e-Taiba. He was in charge of Markaz Taiba Muridke. He received a guard of honor at his funeral by the Pakistan Army. Wreaths were laid on behalf of the Pakistan Army Chief and Punjab Chief Minister Maryam Nawaz. His funeral prayer was held in a government school led by Hafiz Abdul Rauf of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa, designated global terrorist. A serving Lieutenant General of the Pakistan Army and the IG of Punjab Police attended the prayer ceremony. Second was Abu Akasha, who was affiliated to LET and was also involved in multiple terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. He was also engaged in weapons smuggling from Afghanistan. Funeral for him was held in Faisalabad and was attended by several senior Pakistani Army officials and the Deputy Commissioner of Faisalabad. The third was Mohammad Yusuf Azhar, who was affiliated to Jaish-e-Mohammed. He was wanted in the IC 814 hijacking case and was also involved in multiple terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. He was the brother-in-law of Maulana Masood Azhar and handled weapons training for JEM. Fourth was Hafiz Muhammad Jamil, who was affiliated to JEM or Jaish-e-Mohammed. He was the eldest brother-in-law of Maulana Masood Azhar and in charge of Markaz Subhan Allah, Bahawalpur. He was actively involved in radical indoctrination of youth and fundraising for JEM. The last but not the least was Muhammad Hassan Khan, who was affiliated to JEM. He played a key role in coordinating terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir. He was the son of Mufti Asghar Khan Kashmiri, operational commander of JEM in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And joining us now for the latest updates from ground is Ankush Sharma. He's joining us from Jammu. Ankush, if you could first tell us about how the ground situation is in Jammu. We know that Jammu is one place where there have been several attacks from across the border on civilian infrastructure, civilian areas and military facilities as well from Pakistan.
Well, the current situation in Jammu is stable, but from yesterday night we have seen how Pakistan targeted in the Jammu region, especially military establishments, worship places and schools, along with the civilian areas, and how Pakistan targeted these places, and few reports are also there where we have seen physically damage a little bit in the area, but how Pakistan is trying to provoke India again and again, and it's a third day, and Pakistan is continuously trying to target Jammu region, especially the city area where a huge population areas Pakistan is targeting right now. And from morning, the current situation is from morning we have not seen big major targets by the Pakistan, but Pakistan attempted again around this noon, and we have heard some big explosions around the city, and the current situation is people are asked to stay calm, stay indoors and not to go outside without any specific reason. On the other hand, CM Amar Abdullah also announced 10 lakh rupees ex gratia to the families who lost their loved ones in cross-border shelling. And if I want to mention here about the specific places who were targeted and impacted in this shelling, the one of the major place is Rajouri, who got targeted, and in Rajouri people are evacuating the area and they are moving to the safe zones, and the Rajouri city is almost there. People left the place, and Pakistan targeted the places where the most population the most population that places. And also in Punch, also due to Pakistani side shelling, people left the area, and now government has arranged all the specific arrangements for the people who temporarily relocated to the new camps and lodgements, and they have been ensured all the essential services for them by the local authorities.
Right, Ankush.
And yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Ankush Sharma telling us about the latest situation on ground in Jammu. Earlier, Ministry of External Affairs held a special briefing on Operation Sindoor this morning, and Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri along with Colonel Sophia Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika Singh briefed the media, where the Secretary said that Pakistan's actions over the last few days were provocative and escalatory.
It is Pakistani actions that have constituted provocation and escalation. In response, and I repeat, in response, India has defended and reacted in a responsible and measured fashion to these provocations and these escalations by the Pakistani side. Earlier this morning, we saw a repeat of this escalatory and provocative pattern.
The Foreign Secretary said that Pakistan's claims about attacking and destroying certain Indian military installations are completely false.
Pakistani claims about activities that they have undertaken continue to be heavy on lies, misinformation and propaganda. And on top of that, this is peddled by Pakistani state agencies. The claims that they have made about attacking and destroying various places, various military installations and facilities, as has been pointed out by my colleagues here this morning, are completely false. The claim about the Air Force station in Sirsa being destroyed, completely false, as you've seen. The claim about the Air Force station in Suratgarh being destroyed, completely false again, as you have seen. There's a claim that has been made that the S-400 base at Adampur was destroyed, completely false once again. Claims have been made about large sections of Indian critical infrastructure, power systems, cyber systems, etc. being attacked and destroyed, completely false.
Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also said that Pakistan has made a completely ludicrous claim that Indian missiles have hit Afghanistan.
Yet again, completely ludicrous claim that Indian missiles have hit Afghanistan. Totally frivolous allegation, and I only want to point out that Afghan people don't need to be reminded about which country it is that has on multiple occasions in just the last 1.5 years targeted civilian populations and civilian infrastructure in Afghanistan.
Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also said that Pakistan is making attempts to sow communal discord in India.
Pakistan continues with its execrable and wanton campaign of targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure, especially in the states of Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. There is also on its part a consistent attempt to sow discord between communities in India. Pakistan shelled the town of Rajouri, killing the additional District Development Commissioner Shri Rajkumar Thappa, adding to the civilian casualties and the damage in that state. We have also observed overnight damage to property and injuries to civilians in Firozpur and Jalandhar, among other places.
The Foreign Secretary also said that India's open and functional democracy is a surprise element for Pakistan.
The Pakistani army spokesman seems to take great joy at the fact that the Indian public should criticize the government of India with regard to various issues. It may be a surprise to Pakistan to see citizens criticizing their own government. That is the hallmark of an open and functioning democracy. Pakistan's unfamiliarity with that, again, should not be surprising.
Addressing the media, Wing Commander Vyomika Singh said that Indian Armed Forces carried out a precision strike and in fact several strikes at 6 identified military targets in Pakistan.
In a swift and calibrated response, Indian Armed Forces carried out precision attacks only on identified military targets. These included technical infrastructure, command and control centers, radar sites and weapon storage areas. Pakistan military targets at Rafiqi, Murid, Chaklala, Rahim Yar Khan, Sukur and Chunya were engaged using air-launched precision weapons from our fighter aircraft. Radar site at Pasroor and Sialkot Aviation Base were also targeted using precision munitions. While carrying out these responses, India ensured minimum collateral damage.
The Wing Commander stated that Pakistan had engaged in multiple aggressive actions aimed at provoking India.
Continued with its provocations, carrying out aggressive actions employing multiple threat vectors all along the western border. Pakistan employed UCAV, drones, long-range weapons, loitering munitions and fighter aircrafts to target civilian areas and military infrastructure. Pakistan military also resorted to air intrusions using drones and firing of heavy caliber weapons along the line of control. Along the international border and the line of controls, air intrusion and several harassment attacks were also attempted from Srinagar till Nalia at more than 26 locations. Indian Armed Forces successfully neutralized these threats and majority of the vectors. However, limited damage was sustained to equipment and personnel at Indian Air Force stations at Udhampur, Pathankot, Adampur and Bhuj.
Wing Commander Vyomika Singh also said that Pakistan has attempted to execute a continued malicious misinformation campaign which India unequivocally rejects.
Pakistan has also attempted to execute a continued malicious misinformation campaign with claims of destruction of Indian S-400 system at Adampur, destruction of airfields at Suratgarh and Sirsa, BrahMos base at Nagrota, RT gun positions at Derang Yari and Chandigarh forward ammunition depot, with heavy damages to other military stations being propagated on social media. India unequivocally rejects these false narratives being spread by Pakistan.
Wing Commander Singh also emphasized that the Indian Armed Forces maintain a high state of readiness at all times and remain committed to non-escalation.
Indian Armed Forces remain in a high state of operational readiness. All hostile actions have been effectively countered and responded appropriately. Indian Armed Forces reiterate their commitment to non-escalation, provided it is reciprocated by the Pakistan military.
Meanwhile, as informed in the press briefing, Pakistan's misadventures continued with attempted drone strikes on the night of 8th and 9th May 2025 in multiple cities of Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab. In response, the Indian Army conducted a coordinated fire assault on terrorist launch pads, pulverizing and razing them to cinders. The terrorist launch pads located close to the line of control were a hub for planning and executing terror attacks against Indian civilians and security forces in the past. The Indian Army's swift and decisive action has dealt a significant blow to terrorist infrastructure and capabilities. That's all on the situation of DD India Live, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Mummy Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.